I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, get ready for a heat wave. Blistering temperatures are on the way. Is our power grid ready? Also tonight, a San Diego councilwoman is being treated for breast cancer. And a new report looks at the cost of students skipping school.
And local doctors are on alert for enterovirus 68, the severe lung infection that's landed kids in the hospital in several states. Why pediatricians are stepping up testing even though there have been no confirmed cases in California. I'm Peggy Pico with those details, and about 1 in 7 men in the U.S. will get prostate cancer. We'll have an update on testing, treatments, and why more men are surviving.
And would you like to get a taste of San Diego's wild side? You don't have to go any farther than your own backyard. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Is it hot enough for you? San Diego will get a blast of warm, humid air over the next few days. That could push power usage into record territory. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson joins us to talk about this heat wave. Eric, weather is our first concern, of course. What's happening?
Well, Dwayne, there's a hurricane moving up the coast of Baja California, and that storm system is pushing warm, humid air into the San Diego region. I spoke with National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Mady, and he told me that this is the time that tropical weather can impact the region.
This time of year is the best opportunity for us to get tropical cyclones to move up like this one is doing. And when that happens, then we feel this noticeable increase in humidities, which is, you know, it's fairly unusual. Most of the year here, we're very comfortable humidity-wise, like a Mediterranean climate.
Now, he says it is a bit unusual that we're having two events only a week apart, but not completely unexpected. And he says once the system loses its influence on Southern California, the weather patterns that create Santa Ana winds will begin to dominate.
Well, we alluded to power usage. How will the weather affect that?
Well, as you might expect, the demand for electricity is going to climb with the temperature. San Diego Gas and Electric is predicting that consumers will create record demand, that's air conditioning, for power as the heat wave peaks on Monday. The utility says it'll have extra crews on standby if they're needed to deal with any power outages. They're also opening up 100 cool zones. That's a place where people can go to get out of the midday heat. You can find the locations at coolzones.org.
KPBS reporter Eric Anderson. San Diego City Councilwoman Marty Emerald is being treated for breast cancer. She had outpatient surgery today. On Facebook, Emerald wrote, "My doctors say I have an excellent prognosis for full recovery." She says she looks forward to serving the city and serving others with breast cancer. Emerald, by the way, was first elected to the council in 2008 after 22 years as a reporter for our media partner, 10 News. The Navy tonight is searching for a missing pilot from the USS Carl Vinson. The pilot was flying one of 2 fighter jets that crashed in the Western Pacific. The other pilot was rescued. The 2 Hornet fighters were based at the Naval Air Station in Lemoore in the San Joaquin Valley. The Navy says the crash is under investigation. A suspect in a series of sexual assaults in North Park has been cleared of one of those assaults. David Angelo Drake was arrested earlier this week. Investigators say they've eliminated him as a suspect in a June 17th attack, but he's still facing charges in 5 other assaults. Drake is being held on $5 million bail. It's no secret San Diego's police department has struggled to retain its officers, but a new report shows the problem is getting worse. KPBS Metro reporter Taryn Minto joins us with more on this story. Taryn, this report comes from the city's independent budget analysts. What's it telling us?
It shows a consistent increase in the number of officers leaving the department since 2010. 29 officers have left from July to September of this year. Now, that's a monthly attrition rate of 14.5 officers, and that's slightly above last year's rate and nearly 3 times the rate in 2010. But it's important to note that this is based on only 2 months of data, so this is a preliminary projection.
And where are these officers going?
The report says they're going to other law enforcement agencies. Of the 29 officers I mentioned earlier, 7 went to other departments. That's a monthly rate of 3.5, which is a substantial increase over the years.
So what does this mean for the department itself?
It could mean officer departures would counterbalance any progress made on hiring this year. There are extra funds in the budget, so the department can bring on 172 new hires through police academies. But if this attrition rate continues, the department will lose 174 officers, so a net loss of 2 at the end of this year. That's the same net loss as last year. And that keeps the department off track to reach its staffing goal by July 2018.
KPBS Metro reporter Taryn Minto. The agency overseeing the Border Patrol says it will take a deeper look at more than 150 cases of deadly force and alleged misconduct. One case resulted in a death. The investigation is a response to claims border agents use excessive force. There's no word on when it will be completed. California Attorney General Kamala Harris is taking on elementary school truancy. A new report out of her office shows sharp racial discrepancies in truancy. KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler joins us from the newsroom with more on this. Matt?
Attorney General Kamala Harris's elementary school truancy report shows San Diego's truancy rate has grown faster than the state as a whole. From just over 19% to over 21%, Harris says there's a direct link between truancy rates, dropout rates, and incarceration rates.
One of the very accurate predictors of what otherwise will become a big problem in terms of a public safety problem, a public health problem, a workforce development problem, an economic productivity problem, is elementary school truancy. Is the kindergartner, is the first grader in class every day or not? And are we tracking it so that we can answer that question?
In California, 37% of fifth grade African American elementary school students are truant 3 or more times a year. Compared that to 22% of white students. Joe Fulcher is in charge of San Diego Unified School Attendance Program, and he says solutions to the truancy problem should be positive.
Show up at school and want to perform and want to do well for people they feel good about, people they have positive relationships with. And we'd much rather look at positive ways to intervene as opposed to the traditional punitive approaches that have been used.
Now, here in San Diego, we've lost over $108 million last school year because of truancy. Attorney General Harris says playing hooky costs elementary schools across California over $1 billion. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
More than 700 local pediatricians are being asked to step up testing of children for severe respiratory infection. It has hospitalized hundreds of kids in the Midwest. Peggy Pico is here with an update on that.
A rare strain of enterovirus, a lower respiratory infection, has led to a sharp spike in the number of children being hospitalized for severe breathing problems in several states. There are no reported deaths or confirmed cases in California, but the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a warning for local healthcare providers to be on alert for enterovirus 68. Here with the details is my guest, Dr. John Bradley, Division Chief of Infectious Disease at Rady Children's Hospital, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now, Dr. Bradley, this enterovirus 68, what is it and what are the symptoms?
Enterovirus 68 is a fairly new name for a virus that looks very much the same as the one that causes the common cold, or rhinovirus. So our ability to sequence the viruses allows us to give them new names. So what this is a common cold virus with a nice, sophisticated name, but it's one that causes chest colds that are a bit more severe than the standard common cold with a chest cold. So for children with underlying asthma, where when they get a chest cold, the asthma gets worse, this particular virus causes more inflammation, and those kids who already have underlying sensitive airways get into more trouble with asthma.
How is this infection spread? Is it spread like a cold, and how long would it typically last?
It's spread exactly like a cold. It is a cold, basically, with a fancy name. Mm-hmm. And it's spread just like every other cold. Your nasal secretions are contagious, throat secretions. If you sneeze on someone, they're going to get they're going to get it. The range is about 3, 4, 5 feet. So if you're 6 feet away from someone, you should be protected.
And you mentioned this affects, we're looking at video here of the bronchi and the bronchial. You mentioned that this affects kids with asthma. How come?
Each of the cold viruses has a different ability to attach to the upper airway, the nose and throat, and the lower airway. So some viruses just give you a runny nose, and everyone knows other viruses, it may start out there, and then you start to cough, and you have a lot of mucus and bronchial irritation. So this particular virus tends to have a tropism, or tends to be able to stick to lower respiratory tract, lung tissue, better than most cold viruses. That
we just saw, sort of that bronchial area.
Yep.
How is it treated?
Symptomatically. You keep hydrated so that the mucus is nice and moist and you can cough things out. If you've got fever, which a lot of these kids have, you just take standard Tylenol and ibuprofen. There are investigational drugs for enterovirus, and actually one of the other strains causes severe disease in newborn infants. And at Rady Children's Hospital, we actually did investigational clinical trials with some of these agents. None of them are approved by the FDA right now, but in someone who's really, really sick, it's possible to get a hold of some of these.
But it's important for parents to know it's a virus, so antibiotics aren't going to treat it.
Absolutely.
These kids that we're seeing in the hospital, a lot of them asthma patients, they get inhalers as well, or oxygen, or what do they get?
Both. And intravenous medicine.
I see.
So for most of the parents, especially those of kids with asthma, when they get a cold, the kids start using their inhalers more. So what's different about this virus is that the few puffs that used to work for the regular chest cold don't seem to work for this. The inflammation and the spasm is much greater, and so if it doesn't work, they need to go back to their healthcare practitioner or the emergency department and get stronger stuff to open the airway.
I see. Now, there have been no confirmed cases of the virus in California, and doctors are not required to report this to the public health agencies. But Rady Children's is actually being very proactive in this. What are you doing?
All of the kids that come into the hospital now with more serious disease, we're getting samples from the nasopharynx, the deep part of the back of your nose where it joins the throat. And we're collaborating with the county health department. They've been wonderful. Dr. Eric McDonald has gotten our samples, sent them up to the state where they're being tested for enterovirus 68. And actually, for the first batch that we sent up, we hope to get results just within the next day or two.
All right. Well, we are out of time. So, Doctor, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thanks so much, Peggy.
In the first month under mandatory water restrictions, San Diego County saved more than 1 billion gallons, enough water to serve 20,000 residents for a year. Water officials say they're counting on that momentum to build. They say the county's already reduced water use by 20% since the last drought in 2007, and an additional 6% is a good result.
Does that mean that we want to stay there? We'd like to see more, and we're going to continue to do outreach and help make sure people know what the mandatory restrictions are, so that hopefully we can continue to even improve upon that number, because we still have a very serious drought situation with no end in sight.
He says reducing water use during this year's record hot temperatures has been a challenge. Governor Jerry Brown has called for a 20% statewide water reduction. A little more than a week after Brown debated his Republican challenger, 1 in 4 California voters still cannot identify Neil Kashkari. Brown holds a strong lead in the race, 57% to 36%. Brown has also outpaced Kashkari in fundraising. Analysts say Kashkari needs to attract attention from the news media and from donors. Another poll shows support for California's death penalty has fallen to its lowest level in almost 50 years. A majority still do support it, but the numbers dropped 12 points since the last survey in 2011. Just a few weeks ago, a federal judge said the death penalty in California was unconstitutional because it takes too long to carry out. Remember the push for a ballot measure to split California into 6 states? Its backers said the split would mean better representation for residents, but his petition drive fell short, so the idea won't go before voters in 2016.
President Obama says the U.S. will go after ISIS wherever they are. Will San Diego troops play a role? A review board says sheriff's deputies were negligent and lied about the death of a jail inmate. And a shocking video puts domestic violence among professional athletes front and center. I'm Mark Sauer. Join me for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Earlier this week, we told you about the death of San Diego Bishop Cirillo Flores from prostate cancer. About 1 in 7 American men will be diagnosed with the disease this year. Earlier this week, Peggy Pico talked with an expert about diagnosis and treatment.
Prostate cancer is rare in men under the age of 40, and the average age of diagnosis is age 65. Joining me with an update on screening, treatment options, and more is my guest, Dr. Carol Salem, urologist and prostate cancer surgeon at Scripps Health. Welcome to Evening Edition.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Salem, what are the symptoms of prostate cancer, and how are they different than, let's say, the normal functions that you might experience as an aging male?
Well, that's an important question because there are no signs or symptoms of prostate cancer, at least the type of prostate cancer that's still curable and treatable. So it's really important for men to realize that prostate cancer screening is critical in order to find this type of cancer when it's still curable.
And let's talk about that screening. I know a couple of years ago, PSA testing guidelines changed, and men were told not to get, not recommendations, the recommendations changed slightly. When should a man get tested or get that PSA test?
Right. So there is a great deal of controversy surrounding prostate cancer screening, and especially in the past 2 years because of the recommendations by the United States Task Force, who unfortunately were basing their recommendations on a very old-fashioned way of looking at prostate cancer screening. And because prostate cancer is such a slow-growing cancer, in order to collect that data, it had to be collected over many, many, many years. So by the time they came out with the data and the information, the way of looking at PSA screening has changed.
So right now, would you, let's say if you're a man over age 40, is there a particular, let's say, a mark that you could tell men, go see your doctor about this?
So the general recommendations have always been starting at age 50 for any man. However, if you have a first-degree relative that had prostate cancer, either your father or your brother, then the recommendations are to start at age 40. If you're African American, we recommend that you start at age 40.
Because they have a slightly higher risk, I understand, of developing prostate cancer. Now, what is the risk in general of getting prostate cancer and dying from it?
Right. So the risk of getting prostate cancer as you grow older is significantly high. That's the problem with it. Almost all men, as they grow older, will eventually get at least a low-grade form of prostate cancer, and we've seen that in some of the autopsy data. The problem is with the screening technology the way it is, we're picking up a lot of prostate cancer, and we're not sure which man actually needs treatment, which man can just sort of watch his prostate cancer.
But there's a good survival rate compared to other cancers, correct?
Absolutely, because we've been picking it up at earlier stages with the screening technology. A great deal of men would do just fine watching their prostate cancer. The problem and the statistics you're looking at are for men who have been treated.
So the 98.9% survival rate at 5 years out are men who were treated and diagnosed early enough.
Exactly. So, and it's critical to note that 3% of men who die from their prostate cancer is such a large number of men in this country. It's over 30,000 men every year. It represents the #2 cancer killer in this country.
Well, what are some of the standard or treatment options available?
So the treatment options that are available are varied, and we spend over an hour to 2 hours going over these treatment options with every patient that we see that's newly diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it's very individualized how they should look at each treatment option. And it depends on how much prostate cancer they have, what grade of it, how aggressive it is.
But specifically, I know there's surgery, there's surveillance. What are some of the other things?
So specifically, there's radiation, there's surgery, there's a freezing technology. Those are the ways to try to cure a patient of prostate cancer. For patients who we think it's already spread, or patients who we just simply need to slow it down, say in an older gentleman, then we think of ideas like hormonal therapy, taking their testosterone away, some chemotherapy ideas that have come out in the past 5 to 10 years that are very much available nowadays that we never had before. All of those are options.
And then we'll have to end on this because we're running out of time here. How does a man decide how to get the right treatment?
Again, it's super important for them to get as well informed as they can. So once they're diagnosed, they spend the next couple of months meeting with different physicians, their primary care physician, the surgeon, the radiation physician. The neat thing at Scripps is we have all of that to offer the patient. We have, the best of radiation care with our proton beam machine. We have robotic surgery. We have an incredible group of medical oncologists to help them through that.
A lot of options. Unfortunately, we are out of time. There's a whole lot more on our website, kpbs.org. Dr. Carol Salem, thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, former President Bill Clinton discusses politics and foreign policy in this election year and a legacy of his administration, AmeriCorps. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour.
Tonight, we take a child's view of animals and creatures found mostly in our own backyards in this segment of Our Wild San Diego. You are looking at students from Feaster Elementary School here in Chula Vista. We're at the Living Coast Discovery Center along with Karen Quiros, also known as Miss Q or Mrs. Q. She is teaching us all about scary reptiles. No, don't take me out, no. But the good news is this is about hands-on learning and taking away the fear of snakes.
Everyone show me your fangs. Good. We're going to smell that mouse. Put our fangs into the mouse so it can't hurt us. Ready? He puts his venom into the mouse. Now, the mouse can't hurt him anymore. So now he can unhinge his jaw really big, and he takes that mouse and he just, delicious. Where did he go?
In the mouth.
He's all gone. Okay, let's bring back the mouse. And now this time, Samuel's going to be a constrictor. Okay? So he's going to smell that mouse. How does he smell? With his what?
With his tongue.
With his tongue. So he's smelling that mouse, he's smelling that mouse, he's smelling that mouse, and all of a sudden he's going to jump on that mouse and he's going to wrap, and he's going to squeeze that mouse until now the mouse can't hurt him anymore. So now he's going to unwrap his body. He is going to get that mouse out so that he can eat him, and he's going to open his mouth really wide. He's going to unhinge his jaw, and he's going to Are you guys ready to touch a real snake? Yeah. I think you guys are ready. So I need everyone to be crisscross applesauce on your carpet square. I'm going to bring out Mr. Rosie. And I want you to see how tiny his little head is. It's so small. So if he has to eat a mouse, remember he has to open up that jaw really big in order to eat that mouse.
Sherry, I didn't know there's a disorder called nature deficit disorder.
Yeah, there's a term, nature deficit disorder, which is basically that kids aren't getting out into nature early enough. They get too involved in their computers and playing games that they almost develop a fear of adventure, of getting out there and getting dirty. So a lot of things that we do here at the Living Coast is we introduce it to them first thing, make sure that they feel comfortable and safe learning about our wild world, and really encouraging them to get out there and explore themselves.
And because at the end of the day, it's all about conservation and good stewardship, right?
Absolutely. So really getting them early so they have that comfort level to go out and make those connections and really make a positive impact.
Wow, this is a colorful reptile, Sherry.
So this is our panther chameleon. He was from our seasonal exhibit. We bring in animals to compare and contrast with our native species. So he's non-native. But we have found that using wildlife in our natural world here is really the best way to teach kids about science. It makes a great impact on them.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, you have a native reptile here. Tell us a little bit about him.
Correct. Yeah, this is Indy, our chuckwalla. He's one of our recent additions to our collection here at the Living Coast Discovery Center. And cool. He is an example of a native species. So you can see that unlike the chameleon that we featured during our seasonal exhibit, he's a little bit duller in colors. He blends in with the rocks of the desert, and that helps him to camouflage and hide from big predators.
Hey, William, what did you like about today?
Snakes.
The snakes. Odette, what about you?
Owls.
Owls. And Julian?
Snakes and owls.
Snakes and owls. And Sophia, you liked what?
The birds.
Me too. It's a really cool place. The Living Coast Discovery Center is located off Interstate 5 in Chula Vista. It's open daily from 10 till 5. As we told you at the beginning of this newscast, we've got some hot weather ahead. There's a heat advisory out for much of San Diego County. Daytime coastal temperatures will get up into the low 90s by Monday, mid 70s at night. Inland valleys will be up to 100 degrees. 100 cool zones will also be open throughout the area to help folks escape the heat. Upper 80s expected for the mountain areas with a chance of thunderstorms there on Monday. And the desert forecast calls for a high temperature of 106 degrees. Howie. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night and a cool weekend.